The message arrived on the 8th day of Owen's stay, cutting through the station's quiet routines like a shard of broken glass. Mira was in the hydroponics bay, teaching Owen the intricacies of nutrient cycling, when Ven 9's voice crackled through the comm system with unusual urgency. "Boss, we have incoming transmission. Crystal frequency. It's your sister." Myra's hands froze on the hydroponic controls. Light sparked chaotically through her fingers, casting erratic patterns across the algae tanks. "Block it." "Already tried. She's using emergency override codes. Family priority channels." Owen looked between Myra and the comm panel, reading her tension. "Want me to leave?" "No." The word came out sharper than intended. "Stay, please." She moved to the communication terminal, and Owen followed, staying close enough to support, but far enough to give her space. The screen flickered to life, revealing a face that was like looking into a perfected mirror. Kellis was everything Mira should have been. Her crystalline features formed perfect geometric angles. Her skin refracted light in harmonious patterns that created gentle rainbows in the air around her. She wore the traditional robes of a crystal scholar, deep blue that complemented her natural luminescence. Even through the transmission, she was breathtaking. Mira. Kellis's voice was cool, controlled. "You're difficult to locate." That was intentional. Mira kept her own voice steady, refusing to let her sister see her flinch. "What do you want, Kellis?" "Mother is ill." Kellis's perfect features showed the faintest crack of emotion. "The physicians say she has perhaps 2 cycles remaining. She's asked for you." The words hit like a physical blow. Mira gripped the edge of the console, feeling Owen's hand briefly touch her shoulder in silent support. "Mother never wanted to see me again. She made that clear at the Harmony Festival. She was ashamed then. She's dying now. There's a difference." Kellis's gaze flickered past Mira, landing on Owen. Her expression shifted into polite confusion. "You have a human on the station?" "Shipwreck survivor," Myra said shortly. "He's none of your concern. Everything about you is our concern. The family's concern." Kellis's tone sharpened. "You disappeared without word, without proper closure. Do you know what that did to us? The questions, the speculation, the shame of having a family member simply vanish?" "The shame," Myra repeated, and bitter laughter escaped her. "Yes, I'm sure that was devastating. Much worse than spending every day being reminded that you're a genetic mistake." "You're not," Kellis started, then stopped, recalibrating. "You were always too sensitive. No one said you were a mistake. They didn't have to say it. They showed it every time they looked at me. Every time someone's eyes would slide past me at gatherings. Every time you introduced me as my sister, with that particular tone that meant, 'Please don't judge me by her appearance.'" Owen cleared his throat softly. "I'm going to make that excuse about checking the air recyclers now. Myra, I'll be in the engine room if you need me." He squeezed her shoulder once more before leaving, and Myra felt the loss of his presence like a sudden cold. Kellis watched him go with an expression it was difficult to read. "He seems fond of you," Kellis observed. "He's grateful I saved his life. That's all, is it?" Kellis leaned forward, and for a moment she looked less like a perfect crystale and more like the sister Myra had once shared a room with, trading secrets in the dark. "Myra, please, come home. Mother wants to see you." "I want to see you. Why? So you can all have closure before she dies? So you can feel better about yourselves?" "Because you're family," Kellis said, her voice cracking slightly. "Because I miss you. Because maybe I was wrong about a lot of things, and I'd like the chance to say so before it's too late." The transmission cut off before Myra could respond, leaving her staring at a blank screen. She stood there for a long moment, light dancing through her in agitated patterns. Before making her way to the engine room, Owen was indeed checking the air recyclers. Though from the distracted way he was working, it was clear his mind was elsewhere. He looked up as she entered, setting down his tools. "That looked rough," he said simply. "My mother is dying. My sister wants me to come home. Everything about that is rough." Mira leaned against a support beam, suddenly exhausted. "I can't go back there. Can't or won't. Both, neither. I don't know." She slid down to sit on the floor, and Owen joined her, their shoulders almost touching. "You don't understand what it was like. Every day, feeling like you're disappointing people just by existing." "You're right. I don't understand that specifically," Owen said. "But I understand running away. I've been doing it most of my life." Myra turned to look at him. "Is that why you were hauling potatoes to the outer rim? Running from something?" "Someone, actually. Had a great job lined up on Mars. Corporate transport, good pay, benefits, the whole thing. Then I met this girl, Raina, and we had this intense 6-month thing that burned out spectacularly. Turns out when you break up with someone whose father owns the transport company, suddenly that great job disappears." He smiled ruefully. "So I bought the Wandering Fool and started taking jobs as far from Mars as possible." "You're comparing my family trauma to a bad breakup?" "I'm saying we both know what it's like to let other people's opinions define us. To let fear make our choices." Owen's expression grew serious. "But here's the thing I learned somewhere between the potato incident and nearly dying in a frozen wasteland. Running away doesn't actually solve anything. It just means you're alone when the problems catch up." "What would you do?" Mira asked quietly. "If you were me, I'd probably panic, make several bad decisions, and crash another ship." Owen's humor softened. "But if I were being smart, I'd ask myself what I actually want, not what scares me less." Before Mira could respond, an alarm shrieked through the station. Not the standard proximity alert or system malfunction. This was the deep, urgent wail of a critical failure. Ven 9's voice crackled through every speaker simultaneously. "Core breach in Sector 9. Radiation levels spiking. We have approximately 7 minutes before containment failure." "Sector 9? Owen was already on his feet, pulling Mira up. "That's where the main reactor is." "There shouldn't be anything wrong with the reactor," Myra said, but she was moving, racing toward the command center. "I just ran full diagnostics 2 days ago." They reached the command center to find Ven 9 hovering frantically over the console, his appendages working multiple screens at once. Something triggered a cascade failure in the coolant system. "Temperature is climbing exponentially. If we don't shut it down in the next 6 minutes, the reactor will breach containment, and this entire station will be an expanding cloud of radioactive debris. Can we shut it down remotely?" Owen asked, already scanning the readouts. "Negative. The automated systems are offline. Someone has to go into Sector 9 and initiate manual shutdown. Through radiation that's already at lethal levels," Mira said, pulling up the sector's readings. Her hands moved across the console with practiced speed. "The shielding is compromised. Anyone going in there would have maybe 2 minutes before exposure becomes fatal. What about the emergency suits?" Owen was already moving toward the equipment locker. "The heavy radiation gear? Would buy us an extra minute, maybe." Myra studied the reactor layout, her mind racing through possibilities. The manual shutdown requires physically accessing 3 separate control nodes. They're distributed around the reactor core for safety redundancy. "Which means one person couldn't reach all 3 in time," Owen finished. "But 2 people could." "No." Mira grabbed his arm as he reached for a radiation suit. "The exposure would kill us both. Better than definitely dying when the reactor explodes." Owen pulled on the suit with quick, efficient movements. "Unless you have a better idea?" Mira stared at the reactor schematic, at the 3 control nodes that needed simultaneous activation, At the radiation readings, it promised death to anyone foolish enough to enter. And suddenly, she had an idea. A terrible, uncertain idea that depended entirely on something she'd spent her whole life seeing as a flaw. My refractions, she said slowly. They're chaotic because my crystalline structure doesn't follow standard patterns. But what if that's not a flaw? What if it means I can absorb and redirect energy in ways normal crystallate can't? You want to use yourself as a radiation shield? Ven 9's optical sensor focused on her with something like alarm. That's not scientifically sound. That's barely even scientifically coherent. But it might work. Mira was already moving, pulling on her own suit. Crystal biology is essentially living crystal lattice structures. We absorb electromagnetic radiation naturally. My irregular structure might let me absorb more, differently. Or it might just kill you faster, Owen said, but he was suiting up too. Myra, we don't know if this will work. We know the alternative is everyone dies. She sealed her helmet, checked her suit's integrity. I'll take node 1 and 2. You take node 3. If my theory is right, I can move faster through the radiation. If it's wrong, she didn't finish the sentence. If it's wrong, at least we'll go out doing something incredibly brave and stupid, Owen said. Ven 9, time? 4 minutes, 30 seconds. This is a terrible plan, for the record. They ran. Sector 9 was a nightmare of heat and light. Radiation warnings screamed from their suit displays. The reactor core glowed with barely contained fury, and Mira could feel the energy pressing against her skin, even through the protective layers. It felt like standing too close to a star. But something else was happening. The chaotic patterns of her crystalline structure, the fractured refractions that had always marked her as wrong, were responding to the radiation. Light bent around her in ways that shouldn't be possible, and she could feel the energy being absorbed, redirected, channeled through her irregular lattice structure. Node 3. She shouted to Owen, pointing toward the far side of the chamber. Go! He didn't argue, just ran. Myra moved toward the first node, her body already aching from the radiation exposure. Her hands trembled as she accessed the manual controls, entering the shutdown sequence. The first node acknowledged with a green light. 2 minutes left. She ran to the second node, her suit alarms screaming about exposure levels. Through her helmet, she could see Owen reaching the third node, working frantically at the controls. Light was sparking through her now, visible even through the suit, as her crystalline structure struggled to process the massive influx of radiation. The second node activated. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Owen, she called. Status? Almost there. The controls are ... got it. The third node flashed green. The reactor began its shutdown cycle, the dangerous glow slowly dimming. But Myra could barely see it. Her vision was fragmenting, light scattering through her in patterns that hurt to perceive. She felt Owen's arms around her, pulling her toward the exit, and then she felt nothing at all. She woke in the medical bay, every part of her body aching. Owen sat beside her bunk, his face drawn with exhaustion and fear. When he saw her eyes open, relief flooded his expression. You're awake. Thank the stars, you're awake. The reactor? Her voice came out as a rasp. Shut down. Stable. Ven 9 is working on repairs, but we're not going to explode. Owen took her hand carefully. Mira, you absorbed enough radiation to kill 3 people. Your crystalline structure is still glowing. Ven 9 says you're essentially a walking battery right now, slowly releasing the energy you absorbed. Mira looked down at her hands. He was right. Light pulsed beneath her skin in irregular, beautiful patterns. Is it ... Is it killing me? No. Somehow, impossibly, you're processing it. Your flawed structure is actually protecting you, converting the radiation into harmless light emissions. Owen's laugh was slightly hysterical. The thing you thought made you broken might have just saved both our lives. They sat in silence for a moment, hands clasped, both alive against improbable odds. I'm going to Prisma, Myra said finally. To see my mother. To face my family. Good, Owen said softly. Want some company? You'd come with me? Someone needs to make sure you actually go through with it, instead of getting cold feet halfway there. His smile was gentle. Besides, I'd like to meet the people who are too blind to see how extraordinary you are. Mira squeezed his hand, feeling light dance between their palms. Thank you. For what? For making me believe I might be more than just broken. You were never broken, Owen said. You were just waiting for someone who could see the whole picture. Outside the medical bay, Ven9 hovered in the corridor, updating his emotional analysis database with new observations about biological pair bonding behaviors and making a note to himself about the strange, unpredictable beauty of imperfect things.